At precisely 0347 local time, an 11-pound FPV drone, a ghost of carbon fiber and consumer electronics, screams towards a Russian distillation column at 60 miles per hour. Missed by 30 feet, and the entire 50-drone strike package is a catastrophic failure. Hit the mark, and the war economies of 4 separate Russian regions begin to burn. 3 seconds to impact, 0 margin for error. This is the final surgical moment of a 6-hour hunt that began in total darkness, a hunt orchestrated by an intelligence that isn't human. The operation, codenamed Wolfpack, began at 2100 hours the previous night. From 10 concealed locations across Ukraine, 10 Bober mothership drones clawed their way into the sky. These weren't simple kamikaze drones. Each was a miniature aircraft carrier, a flying arsenal cradling its own payload of 4 FPV-1 assassin drones. Programmed with a hive mind AI, they were designed to hunt as one. For the initial critical strike, 4 of these motherships were assigned to the Lukoil refinery in Nizhny Novgorod. Their mission profile was a knife-edge flight, a 600-mile journey that followed the serpentine path of the Volga River. They flew at a suicidal 50 feet above the water, an altitude where a single downdraft or a moment of sensor error meant a cold, dark splash and total mission failure. At this height, the Earth's curvature becomes a shield, hiding them below the horizon of Russia's powerful long-range radar networks. For 6 agonizing hours, they were ghosts in the electromagnetic spectrum. Then, at 3:30 a.m., their luck ran out. The approach was spotted. A Russian Pantsir S-1 operator, his face illuminated by the green glow of his scope, nearly jumped out of his seat. His screen, once a quiet map of the night sky, was now blinking with 4 faint, ghostly contacts. They were low, slow, and on a direct vector for the refinery. 4 targets, low altitude, bearing 290, he yelled into his headset. The beast was awake. 2 Panzer systems, the final armored guardians of this billion-dollar strategic prize, began to turn their heavy turrets. The distinct hydraulic whine of their traverse motors cut through the quiet of the pre-dawn cold. These systems are the apex predators of short-range air defense, each capable of spitting out 5,000 rounds of 30mm cannon fire per minute and launching 12 57E6 missiles that travel at Mach 3. Now, this is where a calculated plan transforms into pure, cold-blooded genius. At 0340 a.m., the Russian operators had a clean radar lock, 4 targets, 4 sitting ducks. But the Ukrainian Skynote AI, processing the world through the unblinking thermal eyes of the lead Bober, saw something the Russians couldn't: a flock of migrating geese, their warm bodies glowing white-hot against the cold sky, cutting across their flight path. And it decided to play God. The AI ordered a split. 3 of the Bobers instantly decelerated and began flying erratic, biomimicking patterns, their radar cross-sections shrinking to a profile almost indistinguishable from large birds. At the exact same moment, the 4th Bober, the designated Judas Goat, turned its powerful communications transmitter not towards its operators in Ukraine, but directly at the flock of geese. It painted them with a focused beam of microwave energy. Imagine the Russian operator's screen. The radar energy from the Bober reflected off the dense flock of birds, turning them into a massive, screaming phantom on his display. The 3 tiny blips had vanished, replaced by an apparition that looked for all the world like a wave of incoming cruise missiles. His training, his doctrine, his own pounding heart screamed at him, kill the biggest threat first. It was the correct tactical decision based on a perfectly engineered lie. 4 570 missiles screamed into the sky. They found their targets and detonated in a spectacular cloud of feathers. For 12 precious seconds, the Russian crews were completely blindsided. Their systems were locked onto ghosts, their turrets were pointed at empty air, and their fire control computers were trying to make sense of biologically impossible flight data. And in that window of confusion, born from a brilliant digital deception, all 4 Bober motherships surged forward, closing the final gap. At 0345 a.m., the storm broke. The 4 motherships unleashed their payload. 16 FPV drones peeled away from their hardpoints, a swarm of vengeance diving for the heart of the refinery. The Pantsir crews, snapping out of their stupor, began firing in sheer panic. The air became a steel web of cannon fire and missile trails. The defense was brutal and desperate. 12 of the 16 FPVs were shredded mid-air, their flaming wreckage raining down on nearby crude oil tanks, starting massive secondary fires that, while destructive, were not the primary goal. The Russian defenses had destroyed the majority of the incoming swarm, but majority wasn't enough. At 0347, with the Russian guns spitting uselessly at the chaos they had helped create, the 4 remaining FPVs from Bober No. 4 had a clear path. But Ukraine had one last brutal surprise. Bober No. 4 itself, its duty as a carrier done, didn't bank for home like the other 3 motherships. Its mission parameters updated. It pitched its nose down, its flight profile changing from carrier to killer. It followed its own children down for a synchronized 5-vehicle strike. 4 FPVs and their own motherships slammed into the facility. 4 direct hits on the single vital distillation column, the one piece of equipment without which a refinery is just a collection of storage tanks. A 5th hit from the mothership vaporized the main control room. $1 billion of Russian pride and industrial power was now being melted down into a monument of failure. The inferno at Lukoil wasn't just an attack, it was a strategic smokescreen. While the Russian high command was screaming into secure phones about Nizhny Novgorod, the other 6 Bober motherships of the original Wolfpack were still silently hunting in the darkness, streaking towards their own designated targets across the Russian heartland. The real storm was just beginning, and the next target was guarded by an invisible wall of pure electronic power. At 04115, 3 of those 6 remaining Bobers, now hundreds of miles south, approached the Sterlitamak petrochemical plant. This wasn't just another refinery. This was Russia's primary producer of military-grade kerosene, the high-purity lifeblood of its air force. From 15 miles out, 2 of the motherships released their payload of 8 FPV assassins. The 3rd mothership, Bober No. 8, held back. It climbed, loitering high above, its mission far more critical than just dropping a payload. The defenders were on high alert. At 0425 a.m., a Krasuka 4E warfare system surged to life, flooding the area with a crushing wall of GPS jamming signals. For the 8 FPV drones, the world simply ceased to exist. Their satellite links severed, their operator screens went to static. A lone Panzer on site opened up, its cannons blasting 3 of the disoriented, blind drones out of the sky. The attack was failing. To the Russians, it was a perfect defense. But the Ukrainian AI had planned for this. At 0430 a.m., while the FPVs were being jammed into oblivion, Bober No. 8 made its move. It pitched its nose down and began a screaming dive, not towards the plant, but directly towards the Panzer system on the ground. To the Panzer's radar, this wasn't a slow plastic drone anymore. This was a large, fast-moving, high-priority threat diving right at them. The Panzer operator, faced with an immediate self-defense emergency, had no choice. He swiveled his turret and fired 2 missiles at the incoming Bober No. 8. But this wasn't just a feint, it was a synchronized sacrifice. At the exact same moment, the 2nd mothership, Bober No. 9, also pitched down, presenting itself as another unmissable target. The Panzer, now faced with 2 immediate converging threats, fired its last 2 ready missiles, 1 at each Bober. There was no last-second jink, no miraculous escape. At 0436 a.m., Bober No. 8 and Bober No. 9 were blown out of the sky in 2 separate fireballs, a costly but absolutely necessary sacrifice. Their final act was to buy a window of time. They bought exactly 12 seconds. For those 12 seconds, the Panzer system was completely occupied, tracking, firing, and confirming its kills. Its turret was pointed up, its operator momentarily blinded by his own success. And in that brief window, the 5 remaining FPVs made their final run. Using the Krasuka's own powerful jamming signal as a homing beacon, they flew the last half-mile on pure physics and inertial memory. The Russian EW crew thought they had won. The Panzer crew was celebrating its 2 kills. They never saw the 5 small, silent assassins that slipped through the chaos. 2 FPVs slammed directly into the main reactor housing. A third blew the primary cooling pumps to scrap metal. In exchange for 2 motherships, $2 billion of strategic assets, and the fuel for Russia's entire Southern Air Command had just vanished in a flash. The twins' sacrifices over Sterlitamak bought a victory that sent a fresh wave of panic through the Russian military. The response was a frantic reshuffling of assets. Believing the main threat was to their industrial heartland, they began pulling their most advanced short-range air defense systems back from the front lines to act as bodyguards for critical infrastructure. One of these systems was the Tor-M2, a tracked, all-terrain beast known as the SA-15 Gauntlet. It was Russia's premier drone killer, and one was waiting. At 5:00 a.m., 2 of the 3 remaining Bober motherships, flying in tight formation, prepared for their run on the main electrical substation in Volgograd. From 10 miles out, they released their entire payload, 8 FPV assassins. At 5:10 a.m., the Tor-M2 operator got the lock he was waiting for. 8 targets, slow and low. This was exactly what the Tor was built for. 2 9M331 missiles launched in rapid succession, obliterating 3 FPVs in fireballs of tungsten fragments. But the Ukrainian AI knew the Tor-M2's greatest strength was also its greatest weakness: its reliance on a single powerful engagement radar. The 5 surviving FPVs executed their countermeasure. 2 of the drones suddenly broke formation and climbed, broadcasting a powerful electronic dazzling signal directly at the Tor's radar dish. It was the digital equivalent of shining a high-powered flashlight directly into a sniper's scope. The Tor's automated system, designed to prioritize the most aggressive threats, was instantly tricked. It swiveled its radar up to focus on the decoys, completely blind to anything happening below. While the Tor was staring at the sky, its automated system did exactly what it was designed to do. It fired 2 more missiles and obliterated the 2 FPV decoys. In that window, the remaining 3 FPVs, completely invisible to the blinded radar, made their final unopposed dash. At 05:15, they struck the substation. 1 slammed into the central switching gear. The other 2 severed the main high-voltage transmission lines. A massive blue arc lit up the pre-dawn sky, followed by a sudden, profound darkness. 16,000 Russian homes and, more importantly, the primary military rail hub for the Southern Front were plunged into a total blackout. At 5:30 a.m., the last Bober mothership, flying a lonely northern route, approached the city of Rylsk. Its target was the main railway switching station controlling all military traffic between Kursk and occupied Luhansk. From 12 miles out, the last Bober released its final 4 FPV assassins. A veteran Tor-M2 crew acquired the 4 tiny targets. 2 missiles launched and 2 FPVs were instantly vaporized. The Tor's radar then began its slow 4-second rotation to reacquire the remaining 2. But the Ukrainian AI had one last trick. This wasn't about decoys. This was pure psychological warfare. As the Tor's radar was spinning, one of the 2 surviving FPVs broadcast a single encrypted radio signal. It wasn't aimed at the radar, it was a microburst transmission on the Tor's internal diagnostic frequency. The signal contained a fake error code, Cascade Failure Missile Launcher 3B, that flashed across the commander's console inside the vehicle. For the Russian crew, this was a catastrophic emergency. Following their training perfectly, they spent 3 critical seconds staring at their diagnostic panels, trying to verify the error, their attention completely diverted from the radar screen. It was the oldest trick in the book. While the guards are looking down, the thief slips past. By the time they realized it was a ghost, it was too late. The sky was empty. They had missed their window. At 05:38 a.m., the 2 FPVs made it through. 1 slammed into the main switching tower, turning the complex tangle of rails and signals into a molten heap. The second FPV, its primary mission complete, continued on, striking a nearby ammunition train waiting to depart for the front. The explosion was immense, a spectacular secondary blast that rocked the city and severed a strategic artery. The final domino had fallen. That single, precise strike on the Lukoil distillation column didn't just break a piece of equipment, it ignited the very heart of their war economy. And from that single spark, a $5 billion firestorm erupted. Let's do the math on the total devastation. 40% of Moscow's gasoline supply gone. The Russian Air Force's primary source of kerosene in the south vaporized. A critical logistics hub blacked out, and a main armored supply line severed. In exchange, Ukraine sacrificed 3 motherships and 36 FPVs, an investment of less than $1 million to inflict $5 billion in direct damages and create a strategic nightmare that will last for months. But the real victory wasn't on a balance sheet. It was the fear. The panic forced Russia to pull 8 of its deadliest Pantsir and Tor air defense systems away from the front lines just to guard burning rubble. And every system they pulled back created a new gaping hole for Ukraine's HIMARS rockets and Storm Shadow missiles to fly through. The ultimate lesson here is a brutal one. You can build a $500 million shield, but it's worthless if your enemy is smart enough to throw an $8,000 rock around it. This is the new face of war, and Russia is learning that lesson one burning refinery at a time. Bye for now.